Hey guys, today on the podcast, I catch back up with Justin Ledet. I hope you guys enjoy the interview. He unfortunately had to take some time off due to an injury. There was a USADA thing, but that got cleared up. But yeah, he's had to take some time off. I wanted to catch back up with him, and we will talk to him again once he gets a fight booked, hopefully towards the end of this year. So definitely check it out. If you have not watched any of Justin's fights, he has 2 in the UFC. Both of them were amazing. Please go watch them. Justin is a rising prospect in the heavyweight division. Again, go check him out. Go check out the Justin Ledet fight against Chase Sherman especially. What an awesome, awesome fight. Today's episode is presented by the Voball. Guys, I've said it 100 times. If you haven't listened to me yet, what are you doing? Go to thevoball.com. That's TheVoball.com. This is the ultimate home fitness and martial arts system for all ages. You can put it almost anywhere, an apartment, a condo, college dorm, office, living room. It does not matter. It's adjustable. It hangs from your ceiling. It's easy to stow it away. It's able to take it. You're able to take it down pretty easy assembly. Watch a video. You'll catch on to it. It's for hand-eye coordination, accuracy and timing, bobbing and weaving, range and position. It's a full-body workout. Again, fits anywhere, guys. Please, just go check it out. It's a little hard to explain. Go to thevoball.com. All right. Enjoy the episode.
This is Justin Ledet, and you're now listening to the LoudMouth MMA podcast.
You got a gun, you got a big gun, you got a gun, it's not a
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the LoudMouth MMA podcast. Today, an interview with the one, the only Justin Ledet. Justin, happy to have you back on the show, man.
Happy to be back, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I gave a quick introduction. I'm like, let's get into this. There's a lot to talk about. So there's some stuff I said. I haven't gone back and listened to it or anything. I think I deleted it, unfortunately. But so we had you on the show right before Fight Night 104. Obviously, an injury pulled you out of the fight. And then you had to deal with some USADA stuff after, which we're going to talk about both of those things today. But I want to repeat here because nobody got to listen to that episode. You were officially my first guest on the podcast. First ever fighter interview that I've ever done. So for those of you who have been either tracking my success or you're new to the show or whatever it is, this is the man that started it all. I owe a debt of gratitude to you, man, because this has been an absolute blast. And without you, it wouldn't be possible. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on again.
For sure. All right. So let's talk about the reason why you had to pull out of the fight. Where was that at?
It was actually in Houston.
It was your hometown.
Yeah.
That hurts.
That shit.
That hurts. Yeah.
So bad.
I know. That hurts, man. And it was on the main card too. I'm not trying to rub it in, but it was originally for the main card too, and in Houston, and against a guy who would go on, and I guess he never got a chance to rebook, so he's waiting on coming back. I wonder if they're going to put you guys together again, because he hasn't fought since.
Yeah, I think he said my management told me that he got hurt as well, so they scrapped the whole card. That's what I heard, at least. I don't know for sure.
Interesting.
But but it doesn't matter. It's whatever. I don't really care about opponents. I just care about the paycheck I get after I fight.
Of course. It's funny. I actually just read something a little bit ago. I was perusing Twitter, and it was an injury lawyer that he said the biggest red flag when I am talking to a potential signee, so he's an injury lawyer, but he also managed players who are coming into the NFL. He said the biggest red flag was when they made the statement, "It's not about the money." He said because every time he heard that statement, he knew that person was lying. And he knew that they were probably lying to themselves, which was even worse. It's one of those, like, you can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself. He's like, but dealing with the type of injuries that he's had to deal with, he's like, that's a big red flag. When people say that statement, and if I think they're being truthful, because I don't want to work with them, because I'm worried that they're not going to take care of themselves, and they're going to get blindsided by what's going to happen, which is their body's going to get torn apart. So it's good to go I mean, it is for the money. It's you also enjoy doing it, which is nice, but it's something that you're good at.
I don't know if it's that or if I have no other skills for any other job. It's one or the other.
Right?
He was like, I can't do much, but I know how to hurt people, so we're just going to go this route and see, how it goes. Because otherwise, I mean, I'd be out of my ass with no skills.
Now you do not fall into this category, but there have been some post game interviews with some college kids. There was one real famous one with a kid out of Auburn, and they're talking to him after the fight, and you're like, thank God you know how to run a football, because boy, you were going to be in for a rude awakening after high school. But thank God he could run. Now that you don't fall into that category, but it is funny. You hear some guys talking and you're like, boy, thank God you were born with athletic prowess, because if not, you were fucked.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's how I feel about all the like, how like some people are like engineers and stuff, and like they'll come to MMA, like Shane Carwin and stuff. I'm like, man, go do that. Leave us fighting to us poor folk, Like, come on, man. Y'all got other things y'all can do. We don't. Like, this is it for us.
I didn't realize that Shane Carwin was that. I know there for football, the center for. Is it the Seattle Seahawks? I don't remember, but he's a center, and he has like an IQ of like one of the highest IQs in the country. He's like he's a math wizard. Like he has like a theorem based off of him and the whole thing. And he's a center.
Shit.
I can't remember his name or who he plays for. Whoever's listening to this, tweet at me or message me or something. Let me know. Let me know who I'm talking about, because I'm not going to look it up. But yeah, that's fine. I didn't know that about Shane Carwin. And there's a lot of fighters, man. You listen to him talk. Like, you ever heard Ryan Hall talk?
Yeah.
Man, you're just like, that dude is smart as hell. I mean, he's weird too. Like,
yeah. They're socially awkward.
Yeah.
They're so smart people.
He's extremely smart. Obviously, he's a wizard on the ground. I mean, quite literally, like, I mean, just that last fight he was in with Gray Mandarin was one of the weirdest things I've seen in my life.
Yeah, that was, it was what it was.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I mean, we're recording this right after UFC 210. I don't quite, it's either going to come out this week or next week, but we're recording this right after UFC 210. So I do want to get your immediate reaction to the co-main and the main. I don't know if you've had a chance to. I feel like I've been talking about this nonstop, and I don't even necessarily want to, but then every time I talk to somebody new, I'm like, hey, let's talk about this real quick, because this is like the craziest. Like, I mean, that might be the weirdest pay-per-view I've ever seen. I can't recall from memory of a you know what I mean, a weirder co-main and main like together.
Yeah,
like that was. I have no idea what happened. So give me some initial thoughts on Weidman Mousasi. We'll just baseline initial thoughts. Where are you with the situation?
My thought is, man, because I saw some video today where he had both hands on the ground or whatever, so technically it was an illegal knee. But like how I was talking, I was like, man, to me, I mean, how are you gonna call it an illegal knee just because he has his hands on the ground? But if he has both one hand up, he's not grounded. Like that's a dumb rule.
Yeah.
Like, I think you should have knees on the ground. Why can't you knee a grounded opponent? You know what they need to take away? That weak ass John Bones Jones oblique kick. That's what they need to fucking take away. And fucking let us do knees on the ground. Because I mean, technically by the rules, yes, it's a legal knee, but it's just a knee at the end of the day. I mean, you saw Weidman was obviously right. What does having one finger? Because it was. His fingertips was on the ground still on his second hand. It's like, well, I don't get it. I don't get those rules. But then again, I wish they'd bring him back fucking soccer kicks and head stomps.
Yeah, right. Go back to the Pride days.
Yeah, I mean, bring back fucking soccer and head stomps and fucking get rid of oblique kicks. Like, fuck the oblique kick. Like, you're just trying to hurt take somebody's knee out. Man, that's fucking weak. Like, knock me out. Don't take my fucking knees out.
Yes.
Please.
So I agree in that, like, okay. So obviously if you bring back soccer kicks and head stomps, you're not going to be able to televise it on Fox. So that's basically the only reason why that's the case. It has
for real?
I mean 100%. There's no way that Fox or NBC or ABC, any network television, they're not going to let you. They're not going to air something where someone's laying on the ground getting kicked in the face. And that's really all it is. If you took that out, if you took out the idea of network television and you could get a private something to fund MMA or fund the UFC the way that a network television network would, then I don't think they'd care. To me, it's all about sponsors. It's all about network television. And that comes with barnifying everything. I mean, that's what you see. You're seeing that with football as well, right? The no fun league. You know, the longer it's on network television, the more eyes it gets, the more they have to nerf it and wrap it up in foam. And, you know, you haven't seen a lot. And if anything, having the one allowing knees with the hand, because before you couldn't do that at all. So if anything, they've made it more violent, quote. So I mean, I guess we have to give them some slight credit. The problem is it's confusing. It's odd. And how could you tell? And then I heard Herb Dean talking, well, it's actually palms, not fingertips.
Yeah.
So then it would be legal. But the fact that there's two problems. One, the fact that 3 different referees who are all prolific are saying 3 different things, that's absurd. How is that a thing?
Yeah.
And 2, the fact that the New York Athletic Commission and the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission and the Texas Athletic Commission, all 3 don't talk to each other and all 3 haven't adapted the same rule systems is insane. It makes no sense. It's confusing for fighters, coaches, referees who have multiple states underneath there, right? Like Big John is like registered in all 50 states or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't. That's so confusing. Why can't we get like we were talking about this the other day. Why can't we get like a UN? You know, like a United Nations of athletic commissions that all like one representative from each athletic commission. They get together once every 3 months and they all adapt the same rules.
That's a really good idea right there.
I mean, that's what we should do. And then also with judging, we should have closed caption televisions, at least for the bigger markets. You're not going to be able to have closed caption televisions for some of those regional scenes. But if you're fighting in the UFC, put the judges backstage, put them in soundproof rooms where they can watch a closed captioned video of what's happening. So they're all 3 seeing A, the best angles, and B, they're all seeing the same exact thing. Because I've talked to referees and judges, referees who are judges as well as just simply judges, and they've all said basically the same thing, that the person who's sitting on one end of the table is seeing something totally different than the person who's at the other end of the table. Because the way we judge UFC fights is people sit at a wooden table and write on a piece of paper. That's how we judge UFC fights. Yeah. It's 2007, and I hate doing that like cliche thing, but like it's 2017. How is that how we're doing this? The UFC just sold for $4.5 billion, and we're still sitting at a table, writing on a piece of paper, watching. You know what I mean? Like, come on, guys.
They just kind of got that kind of the boxing scorecard kind of thing, but it just doesn't apply the same as MMA. Because, like, they don't even record, like, drops. Like, you know, if you get dropped in boxing, it's automatically, you know, a 10-8 round, you know, automatically. But if you get dropped in MMA, though, you know, no point gets deducted. But if you get, like, 4 takedowns, like, that's like a 8-10 round. Like, it don't make sense. They need, like you said, they need a better scoring system on what's going on.
Well, and I think there's a lot more to see with MMA, right? If you're a judge, there's so many more factors than I think there is in boxing. Because in boxing, you're just striking. So I think at the end of the day, that's going to be easier to kind of see the totality of what's happening. Where with MMA, there's grappling stuff, right? In boxing, you can't do that. If you lean on someone for too long, they separate you. You don't have that in MMA. Yeah. There's takedowns, there's kicks, there's submission attempts, there's rolling, right? There's all sorts of stuff. So to me, we need to advance past the sitting at a table and writing method. We need to move to a more sophisticated system. Now, I agree that maybe they shouldn't have access to fighter stats because I think stats are really misleading. So I don't think you should look at stats because a lot of people do that. They go, man, look at the stat line. There's no way this guy won. It's like, yeah, but watch the fight. Those stats don't mean anything. Look at the damage the other guy took. You know, he landed more punches, but his face looked like he got into a car accident. I mean, you can't just look at stats. But anyway, enough on that tangent. How's your knee?
It's getting better, slowly.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to share what happened? What'd you do to it? I mean, anything like that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I was just grappling, getting ready for the fight, and a guy went for a leg lock, and he didn't even have it in, but I was trying to escape, and my knee got turned the wrong way, and I heard a pop. And it initially didn't hurt at all, but I heard the pop, so we kind of stopped and everything, and iced it up. And then, like, after about 4 hours, it just swole up, stiff, couldn't move it, couldn't walk. I was limping for about a whole month. Got an MRI on it. There's a tear in my LCL, but it's like a weird tear. It goes like the tear vertically, so like the tendon almost like split in half, like down the middle. So the doctors were saying that that's a weird tear and that they don't want to do surgery because they don't see many tears like that. They want to see how it does, just rehab it and how it heals up. So, yeah, that's how that's going.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I mean, with LCL tears, I actually do know a lot about like MCL and LCL tears. LCL is certainly a much better tear than an MCL. So definitely kind of, quote, lucked out. I don't want to say lucked out because that's not the right terminology. And yeah, I mean, a lot of those tears, especially if they're on the lower tier, they can heal up within a month even. So
yeah,
even some of the mid-grade to higher grade can heal up after a month. But the problem with any type of tear is that, and I'm sure I'm not briefing you on anything. I'm more just telling our listeners. But yeah, you've heard all this. But the problem with those tears is that the hardest part about them is the mental aspect. It's learning to trust your knee again. Is that something that you've been thinking about?
Not really, but I definitely like subconsciously favor it right now just because it's weaker. Just all the muscles around it are kind of weak, and that's what I'm going through right now. The process of developing those stabilizing muscles, the hamstring, the calf, the quad, and getting the support that it needs, and the strength back that it needs, and then work into our flexibility phase and everything like that. So
yeah, and yeah, I mean, just learn, and once all that stuff gets in there, it's just there is that little mental thing. We have to go, okay, everything's healed up. It's like this never happened, and you have to just kind of move forward with that ideology that, like, it's, in fact, I mean, in some instances, it could be stronger because you've built up the muscles around it so intentionally that it might actually be stronger, right? But a lot of people, I think, have trouble trusting it. So, I guess just something to be conscious of. I'm sure people have talked about that to you, but it's something I've heard from talking to people that was something that they struggled with. All right, let's talk about the USADA stuff now. So, right after the injury, you had pulled out of the fight. And stuff came out from you. So I don't even remember what it was exactly, but basically stuff came out that you had a failed test with USADA, and you didn't say. From what I gathered, other than once or twice, you didn't really say anything, which is good because that's a lot of people get caught up in that. So after a couple months, it was determined that it was a tainted supplement. Do you feel? Does it feel like redemption? I mean, how do you feel?
More so bittersweet. Like, okay. Kind of just 50-50 on the fence. Not good, not bad. Just glad it's over with at this point. Like, I feel like I cleared my name, but at the same time, people are still going to have their shit to say. But it's whatever. Just going to move forward.
Yeah.
That's all you can really do in this instance.
I mean, I guess it happened... it happened pretty early in your career. So I guess that's, better than the alternative, right? If it happens once you've really, really built up, like, what I think you're capable of, right? Getting 5-6 big wins and starting to fight the big guys. If it happens then, right, instead of now, that would be much worse, right? So you kind of, it's like you got it out of the way. You dealt with something, you got that part out of the way, and you get to move forward. And
well, now it just puts me in a weird position, just health wise, like, dude, I don't want to take nothing now. Like,
I know
I wasn't taking nothing to begin with, just a little over the counter multivitamin and goddamn joint support. Like, I just want to get my vitamins, and now, like, I don't see myself taking anything.
That's so scary.
I mean, I guess I could go vegan or something like that, but still, man, you need some type of extra vitamin. I feel like, at least. I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
But
no,
it's crazy. So
I was thinking about that too. When we were talking earlier to get on, I was thinking in my head, like, man, probably the worst part. I mean, other than, of course, the potential smearing of your name, and that's awful because it's the least deserved thing in the world. I mean, there's no reason for your name to be tainted whatsoever. And if anybody does bring it up down the line, fuck them. I mean, that's ridiculous. They obviously are just doing it to be shitty. And people might do that as a tactic to quote, get in your head or something. But fuck them if they bring that up, because that's ridiculous. But I don't cuss that often, but yeah, fuck that. But yeah, I mean, I guess the worst part, second to that, would be now, you can't even take a Flintstone vitamin because you're like, I don't know what this has in it.
Yeah.
God.
And then I've had a couple people hit me up and they're like, oh man, heard what happened, but we have this supplement here, man, that you need to get on. It's clean and this and that. And I'm just like, man, don't even talk to me about that stuff right now.
No more protein shakes. No more protein shakes. No more.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even taking protein shakes before this happened, but I definitely won't, man. It's crazy what they're putting in this stuff, man. And like you said, and what's crazier is when everything happened, I'm like, dude, what's going on? This is ridiculous. And it's different, like John Jones, okay, he's getting, a tainted dick pill. Dude, you're 29 years old. You don't need to be taking fucking dick pills, okay? But I'm taking a fucking multivitamin. I need to be taking that and probably more shit the way I train, but I'm not. And, this shit happens, so I don't know. I'm just ready to get back in there, man. This whole thing with the injury and the USADA, just everything been going on in my life in general. I'm just ready to get back in there and hurt somebody, man. Take this shit out on somebody else.
Right.
Because, man, this is straight shitty, man. Yeah, man. And you said it kind of happened early on, and I feel like that might have even been worse. Because, man, I had that momentum, I was on a good roll. And then, like I said, the injury and just man. And then, I got the USADA thing. And then, 3 weeks later, I fucking wrecked my car. And I was like, man.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, fuck, dude, I can't catch a fucking break, So,
I mean,
and
they say that shitty things happen in threes. So maybe you just got your three. Maybe you got your three over with.
Man, I hope so, man. Got me looking over my shoulder. But, yeah. One of those things. But, I mean, I guess that's just life in general. I mean, you're going to go through ups and downs. And, being a fighter, that's one of the things that I like about being a fighter. I tell people, they're like, oh, why do you like to fight? It's because I actually know who my opponent is. When I fight through life, you don't even know who your opponent is.
Right.
At least in the cage, you know who it is.
Amen.
So,
yeah. I mean, do you think first of all, I hope everything gets better for you, obviously. I mean, you're trending upward. USADA stuff's behind you. Knees healing up. Cars can be replaced. Right, you're trending upward. So
yeah.
So that's a good sign. The UFC's still around. You're still signed. You're still under contract. Right.
Yeah.
Things will get back to where it was. But that does suck, man. I mean, you were building up that momentum. You got to restart again. But I think anyone who's watched the first two fights, I don't think anyone has any questions. So.
But they're gonna ask once I get booked for my next fight, they're gonna be talking about, oh, you got ring rust, this and that, blah blah. I'm like, man, get out of here, dude. I spar so much, I don't think I've ever had ring rust, dude.
Yeah,
I spar so much. I mean, they can't get me to the gym if I'm not sparring. They got to trick me. They like, oh, we got sparring. And then I'll get to the gym be like, oh, man, he didn't show up. Knowing damn well they didn't even have nobody scheduled. They just wanted to get me to the gym. And that was the only way. So
yeah, I mean, Dominic Cruz was coming off of 2 straight horrific ACL tears, had spent more than 2 years. Spent more than 2 years out of the octagon. Okay, then beats the brakes off TJ Dillashaw. Right, then he's injury free, has the best camp of his life, and gets the beat off of him by Cody Garbrandt. So ring rust is not a thing. Ring rust is not a thing. I mean, it's all about where you are that day, and it's all about who you're fighting, and styles make fights, and it's all about that. Yeah, I don't think ring rust is a thing because I always and one of the main reasons why I don't think ring rust is a thing also is because bettors don't think it's a thing. And I trust the betting community more than I trust most coaches. I mean, these guys are so intimate with what they're watching and what they're looking at. You know, I'm nothing. I mean, I host a podcast, so I look at stuff more than like the average person. But dude, these people that I have on my show to break down cards and fights and stuff, I mean, the intimacy that they get involved in researching these fights and stuff. It's incredible. It's incredible.
That's crazy. Yeah. I wouldn't even have thought that.
Boy, those, I mean, if there's kind of a short list of gamblers, you know, and betting guys who, if they told me that the sun was going to be blue tomorrow, I would probably put $50 on it. I mean, there's a couple of those guys that I've really learned to trust. And and those guys I think would all kind of repeat what I'm repeating, which is ring rust is not a thing. It's that's one of those things that we've created, and it applies to some people, especially if you're old. You know, if you're getting in the ring and you're 42, you know, and you haven't fought in 3 years, then ring rust is a thing. Ring rust is not a thing when you're 28. You know, it's not a thing then. Yeah. Unless you let it be a thing, I guess I should say. I mean, unless you let it be a thing. If you let it be a thing, then it's a thing, right? If you're going into it thinking it's a thing, then it's probably going to fuck you up, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like the first time jitters in the UFC.
Exactly.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
If you let it get to you, of course it's going to get to you. If you're going to about that life, then it's going to be another day.
And that's something, those jitters. I mean, that I feel like I've seen affect people because you're just like, this guy is just not looking like this is not what you're supposed to be doing. And I mean, let's talk real quick. I mean, while I have you on, I mean, we talked about Mousasi Weidman. Let's talk a little bit about Cormier Johnson, which is, a division that you could one day be in. I'm sure you haven't completely ruled out 205. It's a division that makes sense maybe down the line. Although heavyweight, I think heavyweights, I mean, the heavyweight division in any of these needs new blood. So you're a welcomed sight, but at some point I'm sure you could probably get down to 205 if you wanted to. And so, it got a little lighter with Rumble Johnson going in to a title fight and fighting what I would argue is the worst game plan I've seen since I don't know how long. I mean, he made Eddie Alvarez's game plan against Conor McGregor, look like a GSP game plan. I mean, just what an awful game plan to have. I mean, to walk in there and wrestle the number one wrestler in the division, probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. I don't think anyone knows what was going on. His coaches didn't know what was going on. His coaches were so pissed they didn't even get in the cage with him. Henry Hooft was so mad at him he didn't even want to talk to him. I have no clue what's going on there. Do you think that was jitters? Do you have an opinion on why that went the way that it went?
I wouldn't say necessarily jitters, but I would say, sometimes, man, I don't know, man. I can't explain it, but there's unexplainable things that go on in your head, and sometimes that stuff like that happens. I mean, it just is what it is. Sometimes it's just not your night. Sometimes you're not thinking correctly. Maybe you feel something in there that you think it might work, or you want to try something different while you're in there. So many things, man. It could have been any number of things going on in his mind. So it just is what it is. That's the way the fight game goes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are looking at it as being, a potential fix. And I think my argument against that, one, because I don't think that he would do that, but probably my biggest argument against it being fixed is that if he did fix the fight, he made it the most obvious thing on planet Earth. Like, he could not have been any more obvious about fixing a fight if that's what he did. So that almost makes me feel like that's not what happened. Because why would you be so obvious with it? You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think that he did. It was just weird because you're like, why is this guy doing this? This is one of the hardest hitting people in the. I mean, I would say second to John Jones. He might even hit harder than John Jones. Honestly, I don't know if John Jones hits any harder than Anthony Johnson. So,
John Jones definitely doesn't hit nowhere close to Anthony Johnson.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was just thinking in my head, like, that's not really what John Jones. That's not really what his, like, quote, strength is.
Nah.
His is
more.
more
Has he ever
just.
knocked out somebody with a punch?
I don't know.
I know he's knocked out people like elbows, ground
elbows and stuff,
knees.
Well,
but like a standing strike, like a punch, even multiple punch, even like a TKO. I don't think I've ever seen that from John Jones.
Yeah, I mean, his big thing obviously is almost exclusively. Well, one, he's a freak athlete. He's extremely athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably his biggest thing. Number two,
yeah, they say he's freakishly strong. I mean, definitely when he gets a hold of people, he definitely has to be freakishly strong.
Well,
did you see that Flow grappling match with Dan Henderson? He had?
Right. Now, granted, it was with Dan Henderson, but like, still, I mean, that's crazy. No, I mean,
Dan Henderson's stronger.
Hell of a wrestler too, and he's a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah, he just straight manhandled him. Like, man, that was ridiculous.
I know, he's strong as hell, man. And I'd say I mean, okay, so obviously, like I said, the freak athlete is extremely strong. I mean, the biggest thing is just that 84.5-inch reach. I mean, he could stand across from the octagon and grab your throat. Like, that's terrifying. Did you know, I don't know if you knew this or not, I don't even know why we're talking about it, but he has the same reach as Stefan Struve.
Oh,
and Stefan Struve is 7 feet tall.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I think Stefan Struve is literally 7 feet tall. Like, I'm pretty sure that's exactly how tall he is. And they both have the same reach. I mean, that is insane.
And John Jones is all arms. You know how, like I got an 80, but I got, like, my arms and then my shoulders,
Your
too.
shoulders.
If you see John Jones, like, his shoulders aren't that broad. It's, like, all arms.
Yeah.
Straight arms down to his knees.
Yeah, see, I'm 5'8" with a 75, which is really big for my size, but I'm all shoulders, and that's basically in hands. There's nothing special about anywhere else, but I have these really broad shoulders. My dad's 6'4". I wound up 5'8" because of my mom. So I got like my dad's feet and hands and shoulders, and then my mom's height. So I'm built like a circus clown. Yeah. I mean, I was built to be a fighter, except I've never fought. So. And I really have no desire to.
Can't blame you there.
No, does not sound fun to me in the slightest.
It's not fun. It is fun, but it ain't fun. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, if it's something you're good at, it's something you're good at, and you follow that. And I mean, the big thing is if you have to just have a passion for it. And
yeah,
I think that's really all it comes down to. And, I know that you have a passion for it. Every fighter I've ever talked to has a passion for it. As soon as you start losing that passion, you start losing fights. And, as soon as you start thinking of retirement, you start losing fights. All that stuff goes hand in hand. It's because you're losing passion. And so even if you don't enjoy it, there's I can think of things that, like, I have a passion to do that I don't necessarily – like I play drums and I play music in a band, and so often I'm like, I really don't feel like doing this today. But like, it's what I do. I've played drums for, almost 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, that's just what you do. Even if I'm like, I don't really want to do it, there's still that like passion and drive to do it. So you get up and do it. Now, playing drums and getting kicked in the mouth are two very different things, but God, that just sounds just awful. It's like I can't think of a universe where that's something that I would want to do. But kudos to you for wanting to do it, my friend. Kudos to you.
Man, I don't even think I wanted to do it. I think I just have to do it. It's like a difference. it's different. Like, I have to do it. Like, I wish I didn't fight. Like, I don't like it. I wish I would have never walked in the gym. I'd be like, you know, but like once I hit first time I hit the heavy bag, it's like my body and mind, my soul was just like, this is what you're gonna do. I don't give a fuck if you want to do it or not. This is what you're gonna do now.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine. That's cool though. I mean, to have that though. And was your initial thing wasn't MMA, it was boxing, correct? Or was boxing a byproduct of MMA? Okay, so boxing is kind of what led to MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss boxing? I mean, you know, like boxing, like in actual professional bouts and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Is that something you see yourself doing later?
I mean, I tell you this, I'd rather be boxing right now. I wouldn't have a hurt knee.
Right? Yeah, because nobody's trying to pull your legs down in boxing.
Yeah, but I'd rather be boxing. But, you know, you got to go for what pays the bills, you know, and that's what I did. So, but, you know, I don't know what the future holds, so just got to keep fighting. Yeah,
man. All righty. Well, I won't hold you on here any longer. Again, man, it's great to have you back. You know, do you have a time frame in mind? I mean, when you're wanting to get back in?
September, October.
Okay. That's super reasonable. I think that's super reasonable, right? Like, you know, how long is that basically? You're giving yourself, what, about January was when the injury was?
Late January.
January. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, February, giving yourself 9-10 months. Sure. I think that's pretty reasonable to get back in a fight. Yep. All right.
Yeah. Cause you got to think, you got to get 100%. Then you got to get back in shape. And then when you're back in shape, that's when you go looking for a fight and then training camp. You know what I mean? You can't just get 100% and then go straight to training camp.
Yeah.
You're going to get hurt again.
You got to build up. Up. That's good. You're being smart about it. I mean, I think most people are. We understand that it's going to take time and you have to let your body heal up and let you do it or you're not going to be able to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I mean, I guess I should ask you too, give you a chance. I mean, is there anybody whose name, you know, has been on the tip of your tongue or, you know, obviously the problem is it's so far out. I mean, who knows what the landscape's going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And there's so many heavyweights on the roster. So.
And there's been some new people too. I mean,
I don't
obviously.
know. I don't know. I just thought that Curtis Blades. I don't know. That was the first one that popped in my head, though.
Yeah? That's an interesting one. I mean, that's a guy who has built up some name value, and I'm not even really sure why. Was it just the beating on Cody East? I mean, is that really where it came from? I mean, I'm trying to think in my head. I mean, I just don't feel like beating up Cody East really holds that much weight. I
don't know how Cody East got in the UFC.
I don't think Cody East knows how Cody East got in the UFC.
Yeah.
I've been tracking some of his stuff. I mean, he definitely showed in that Adam Milstead fight. I mean, some wow.
He can lay on someone?
Well, so he showed him he showed the Adam Milstead fight a lot of strength. The problem is that Adam Milstead weighed, you know, 230 pounds soaking wet. I mean, he wasn't, and he's not a very, like, he's not built, you know what I mean? Like Adam Milstead, I don't know, he's just not built in the way that I think you need to be built to fight a guy like Curtis. Curtis Blades' a big dude. You know, he's cutting down to 265. You know, obviously you're not the biggest heavyweight in the world, but you just have a different build than Adam Milstead. And I don't think Adam Milstead was able to keep a guy like Curtis Blades at range, where you have a much larger reach. You know, you're a little bit taller. You're going to be probably quite a bit heavier if you wanted to be. You know, you can come in whatever weight you wanted to come in at, but you're going to be able to keep Curtis Blades at range because you're boxing. Adam Milstead was completely unable to do that. He had nothing to offer there as far as keeping Curtis Blades away from him. You know, and once he got on him, there's just nothing he could do. He just kept getting flattened out, you know. Mm-hmm. And he hurt his knee pretty early too, so who knows what effect that would have had.
Yeah.
But that fight wound up getting turned over to a no contest, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Marijuana. Is that what it was?
Marijuana.
Another one of those?
There was 3 on that card.
They're all getting high before the fights? I mean, so I am one of the people that says, like, okay, make marijuana illegal for everybody for whatever use, because who gives a shit? That's where I'm coming. But like, these are the rules. You know, if you don't like the rules, don't play the game. You know, if you want to change the rules, try to change them, do what you can. But it's kind of like what Gary Vee would say. Like, you know, if you don't like the law in a state, then get the fuck out of the state. I mean, it really just, that's what it comes down to. And I don't want to sound obtuse, but like, you know, like you just had Kevin Gastelum also fail for pot. You know, and I don't have as much sympathy as I think other people would. Nico Price's fight he also tested positive for marijuana too. I'm looking at it right now.
In the Morano fight, yeah.
Yeah. And then who else was it? Because, yeah, you're right. It was 3 of them. And Abel Trujillo as well.
A chick.
No, it was Abel Trujillo.
Abel Trujillo.
Yep. Trujillo fell to James Vick. So that fight stays the same because they're not gonna give James Vick a no contest because Trujillo failed. So yeah, both the Milstead fight and the Morano fight both got turned to no contest. Wow. Interesting.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, give your opinion. I mean, again, I'm not even trying to be totally super obtuse. I just like, you know what the rules are. I mean, you don't accidentally smoke pot. I mean, tainted supplements is a whole different ball game. You don't accidentally smoke pot. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you're right on that. I mean, they know the test is coming before the fight. You know, you got to be clean before the fight.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the rules. I agree with you on that. But on the opposite end, I'm 50-50, like you said. Rules are rules, but it's dumb rules.
It's a dumb rule.
With the illegal knee. It's a rule, but it's a dumb rule. Like, but like you said, you don't smoke weed on accident. You know, it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look at what. So they allow you to have 150 ng/ml. I'm not sure what ng stands for, but I think so. That's the threshold. I'm pretty sure that threshold is actually pretty high.
Hell no, that's not going to be high.
Let me look. Raising the threshold for positive tests from 15 to 150. That's what the Olympics just did. So I think it actually is pretty high. I think the threshold is basically like you'd have to smoke within a couple days of your fight.
Nah, there's no way.
Let me look. I guess I shouldn't say that because I really don't know. But I'm just looking at it because the Olympics just raised theirs because the Olympics was 15 and they raised it to 150. So, I mean, they literally added multiplied it by 10.
Man, back when I was on the Ultimate Fighter and they had drug tests and I didn't know they had drug tests. So I learned a week before that they had a drug test. And so I smoked that day and went to the smoke shop, got a detox, and was clean the next week for the drug test. So like I'm saying, I don't know how they're coming up dirty. And I don't think it's a very high threshold on that.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Well, but that's what I'm saying. If you were able to get out of your system that fast, because the threshold, that must mean the threshold is actually relatively high. Although I guess those detox things do work pretty well. So in the NFL, it's 35. Just to give you a litmus test. And for the Olympics, it was 15. In the NFL, it's 35. Everything has now, I guess, been raised all the way around to 150. Or more than 7.
But I would want to know how, like you said, how much you would have to smoke. Or
yeah, like what would the...
And then what's the time frame of it?
Let me look. You also might fail at 15 or 35 if you had smoked. Oh, wait a minute. Is it less? You know what, Justin? I'm going to research this shit. I'm going to get back to you. So that way I'm not doing it in the middle of this. Hey, I'm going to get back to you. Let me research this.
I'm going to need to know for my next fight.
Right? You and Nate Diaz all get together?
Oh, yeah. That's the only supplement I can take now.
Right? I mean, and it's they make it legal. So it's like I think it's straight up legal where it's legal in your state or whatever, but it's straight up legal out of competition. So really, it's just like there's that X amount of time where you're quote in competition. Is that 8 weeks or what? Do you know what the threshold is?
In competition testing is 6 hours before the weigh-ins.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you got to be clean right before the fight. Like me, every fight, I quit a month before the date of the fight, and I don't even take a detox or nothing, and I'm clean.
Yeah.
Like you got to be clean 6 hours before the weigh-ins. You know this. So I mean, I don't.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's even more of a thing. So, because I was thinking in my head that like in competition was like during your training camp, or like there's like a designated. So I was thinking they're popping hot, weeks before the fight, and I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. If you're telling me you popped hot 6 hours before the fight, you smoked a couple days ago. Like you smoked a week ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you knew better than that. Like, don't do that. Like you didn't smoke a month ago and pop hot at 150. There's no way in hell. Yeah. You smoked like a week before.
Yeah. You got to think about how much you're sweating. Us athletes sweat every day.
Wow.
So it's going to get out of your system relatively quick. I
mean, I know that Nate Diaz tested like so high that they were like, he must have been smoking as he was taking the test. I mean, and like ashed in it as it was like they were taking the cup away. I mean, like he had tested so high.
Which fight was that for?
That was the one that I think got him the 2 year or the 5 year. Then they lowered it. I think it was that.
Was it Nate or Nick?
Let me look. It was Nick for sure.
I think. I think you're okay. And that was the Anderson Silva. But they set him up, though, because they tested him after the fight, like 6 hours after the fight.
Oh, so he had already smoked. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had just probably smoked right after the fight. 'Cause I mean, that's if you smoke, that's what you're going to do if you haven't smoked in a month,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what happened because they just changed that USADA rule because the in-competition test was 6 hours before weigh-ins and then 6 hours after your fight.
So
he I guess, like, they set him up there because he said they tested him like 3 days, like 3 times. They tested him right before the weigh-in, they tested him right before the fight, and they tested him right after the fight. He's like, dude, why would you test me that much? Like, what are you trying to find? And then, like you said, he must have smoked right before the last test, not knowing that they were going to test him.
Yeah. Well, that's totally different. That kind of sucks. Why after? Is it just to make sure that you didn't take something like as you were walking into the octagon, basically? Is that kind of what the ideology is? So like after the fight? But why wait 6 hours? Why not do it right away?
Exactly. Well, that's what they just switched that rule actually to if they don't test you right after the fight, then you're not going to get tested.
Got it. Okay, good. Yeah. That's what it should be. Okay. Yeah. That's good. I'm learning a lot from you today. a lot of stuff I probably should have known but didn't. All right. Well, Justin, plug anything you want to plug, my friend. The floor is yours.
Oh man, I want to thank my management, Frank Adame, Sucker Punch, all my people at my gym, Submission Boxing, Gracie Barr for having my back and, believing in me and everything and knowing that I'm a clean athlete. Thank you to USADA, the UFC. Just everybody in general, man. I'm just ready to get back in there, and I'm tired of sitting on the sideline. It's like I'm in a different life right now. I sit back. Sometimes I watch my earlier fights. I'm like, damn, who is that guy? Never seen him before. Feel like a different person when I'm not in that cage.
Yeah.
So just ready to get back in there. And like I said, thank you to everybody that had my back, all the fans and everything. Just can't wait to get back, man.
Wonderful, man. Sorry, I had it on mute. Wonderful, man. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm happy to see that you and Keith have maintained a relationship.
For sure.
Yeah, MMA Takeover is a good site, and
he was actually the one that he was the one that actually told me first about the USADA.
He told me that. He felt awful, by the way. I don't know if he's ever told you this, but I'm gonna spill the beans right now. He called me after and was like, he's like, dude, I just broke the news about the USADA thing to Justin. I'm like, what do you mean you broke the news to him? Like, I thought you heard from him. He's like, no, I heard it. And I reached out to him and no one had told him yet. I was like, oh, that's crazy. He's like, I feel awful. I'm like, well, don't feel awful. Like, you didn't know. But that's the thing, though. That's the kind of guy he is. That's why I work with him. He's not a gotcha guy. He's not a breaking news guy. He waits until shit gets verified before he posts, which cost him a lot of clicks. It does.
Yeah,
If you're not the type of person who's going to post nonsense, you're going to lose a lot of clicks. And he's willing to sacrifice clicks. This is the nicest. I hope he doesn't listen to this. Don't ever tell him I'm this nice. But because I'm about to record the news with him right now, and him and I will be going back and forth the whole time. So I can't let him know I'm this nice about him. But I appreciate him. And the fact that he's willing to sacrifice clicks and sacrifice ad revenue and all that kind of stuff to make sure that shit's verified before he goes running it around to people, because he doesn't want to hurt people. He wants to make sure that what he does, even if he pulls something, he's pulled stuff out of interviews for people, where he's gotten someone talking and they've asked him to pull something out, and he's done it. I mean, and good luck getting people in the media to delete something you said on record. Good luck.
Hell yeah, especially if it's controversial.
Yes, it's basically Keith and me. It's about the only two people who are ever going to do that. I didn't air an interview because someone asked me not to. So, it's just, you do what you got to do. I could have just said, no, I'm going to air it, but I didn't.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that's the way, because I'm kind of got some ill feelings toward MMA Junkie because of that shit.
Yeah, dude.
They were like the first ones to put that article out and shit. And then they were like, yeah, now we know the reason why Ledet pulled out the fight. Like, all right, okay.
Yeah,
but I'll see him soon, though.
Right? Are you excited for that initial when they stick that microphone in your face and you're like, oh yeah, next question?
Oh man, I got so many things to say, man. This next fight might be my last UFC fight. I'm gonna talk so much shit.
Right? Hey man, the UFC don't mind. They want you to talk. Especially Dana White hates the media. So yeah, have fun.
I'm gonna be
He's
talking
not gonna
shit
care
about the UFC.
Oh yeah, there you go. I mean, I mean, look at the amount of shit that some of these fighters talk. I mean, they'll do it right to his face. I mean, I think he understands. What I do appreciate about Dana White is that he understands the game. He gets it. He gets it. He even if he does take stuff personally, he's not actually taking it personally because he does not care. Whatever's going to sell tickets, that's what he cares about. And if selling tickets means letting Nate Diaz slap you in the face, that's what he's going to do. He does not care. All right, cool. All right, Justin. I guess the last time I had you on too, we talked for like an hour. So
hell yeah, we did.
You have to start prepping every time you talk to me to set an hour aside.
All right, man. Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me on again, man. I hope
for
you're
sure.
From you soon.
Yeah, for sure. We will get you back on before your next fight.
All right, hell yeah, man.
All right, talk soon.
Take care.
Bye.
The host of the LoudMouth MMA podcast, Kyle Steele. Executive producer and head of marketing, Philip Herman. Today's episode was mixed by Danny Adams, myself. Special thanks to the MMA Prophet, Sean I. Has, Dave Madden, Keith from the MMA Takeover, and The Voball. To learn more about the LoudMouth MMA podcast, please visit loudmouthmma.com.